All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to dig into those hidden patterns that show up in our relationships. That everyday friction. We're going to explore how we can actually turn it into a real, powerful opportunity for connection. Okay, let's just start with this. Wow. I think so many of us can feel this in our bones, right? It's that moment when you're just pushed to your absolute limit and it feels like your reaction isn't even yours anymore. It's been caused by what someone else did. And here's the thing, this feeling rarely comes from some huge single event. Nah, it's usually the little things, right? It's the buildup of all those small daily frictions, those arguments that just seem to go in circles. And at the end of it, everyone just feels completely and totally misunderstood. So let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're just having a chat with your mom, a simple conversation. And then, from the other room, your brother just chimes in with some snarky, dismissive comment. And just like that, boom. What was a simple discussion has turned into a total battlefield. And this right here, this gets to the absolute core of the problem. There's this massive gap between what we're saying and what we actually need. When we say, "you're not listening," what we often mean is, "I feel so invalidated right now." In these moments of conflict, we're desperately trying to build a bridge, but we just end up building walls instead. So, here's a huge question. What if all these super frustrating external conflicts, what if they're actually just a mirror, reflecting something that's going on inside of us? Let's really dig into that idea because honestly, it changes absolutely everything. And this leads us to this massive concept called outsourced self-worth. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's when we literally hand over the power to decide our value to, well, everyone and everything else, to other people, to our circumstances, to the stuff we own. And, we do this in so many ways. We tie our sense of self-worth to our husband's rank or position, to the size of our house, the car we drive. We even do it with our kids' achievements. It's like we're letting the outside world slap a price tag on our soul. So just take a second here. This is a big question for all of us to really think about. Where is the source of your worth? Is it coming from inside you, or is it totally dependent on something or someone else? Okay, now let's pivot a little and see how this whole dynamic builds on itself. Because nowhere is this clearer than when we look at parenting. Check this out. It's a real moment from the source material. A kid says, "Mama, I don't like the small car. I want to go in the big car." See what's happening? The child is already absorbing the world's values, tying their happiness to the big car. How we respond in these little moments, it's absolutely critical. Now, the old playbook would be to lecture, right? "You shouldn't say that, be grateful." But there's a much more powerful way. Instead of correcting, we get curious, we ask questions. "Why don't you like the small car?" This helps the child actually look at their own feelings and start building their own internal compass instead of just borrowing ours. And this approach, it works for pretty much everything. Junk food, toys, you name it. So instead of just a hard no, the first step is to acknowledge their desire. "Yeah, I get that you want that." Then, offer choices that work for you. And maybe, just maybe, use it as a chance to teach them about bigger things, like patience and saving up for something they really want. What this all comes down to is empathy. Just remember, a kid coming home from school has been following rules all day long. They've been conforming for hours. So when they have a tantrum, it's not always just defiance. A lot of the time, it's a desperate cry for some understanding, for the freedom to just be themselves for a minute. Okay, so now that we've got this new focus on what's happening on the inside, let's circle all the way back to that first conflict we talked about. Let's see if we can totally reframe it. This right here, this is the big shift in perspective. What if the argument isn't an attack at all? What if it's actually a really clumsy attempt to connect? Think about that. The person pushing all your buttons isn't trying to hurt you. They're just trying, and probably failing, to start a real conversation. Yeah, and the source material points out a really common dynamic here, especially with men. They're often conditioned not to express emotional needs directly. So what happens? Sometimes initiating contact through a debate or a little conflict is the only tool they feel like they have in their toolbox. It's a powerful thought, isn't it? Actually, at that time, they're trying to connect. So next time someone jumps in with a comment that feels like a total challenge, the very first step is to just pause and ask yourself,
Is it possible this is just their awkward way of trying to reach out to me? So here's a brand new toolkit for you. Step 1, recognize their comment for what it might actually be, a bid for connection. Step 2, invite them into a real conversation. Say something like, hey, if you want to talk about this, come sit with us. And step 3, then you can calmly clarify your own perspective. No drama, just your point of view.
And this really brings us full circle, doesn't it? It leads us to what is probably the most powerful tool we have in all of these situations, with our kids, with our partners, and yeah, even with ourselves. So what actually happens when we stop just providing answers and start asking good questions instead? Well, we open up a space for other people to find their own answers, and just as important, a space for us to finally truly understand what's going on for them. I love this chart because it shows the shift perfectly. The goal isn't winning the argument anymore. That's down low. The new goal, the high bar, is understanding the person. Because that's it, right? That's where the real connection actually happens. Because when it comes down to it, questions build that inner compass for our kids, for our partners, and this is so important, for ourselves. Questions are the tools we use to build that sturdy, resilient inner guide that keeps us on track, no matter what kind of storms are raging on the outside. So here's the thought I want to leave you with. Your life, it's a mirror. It's constantly reflecting your inner world back at you. And if you don't like the reflection you're seeing, trying to polish the mirror won't change a thing. The real work, the real change, happens when you look deep within yourself.